Hi, I'm Sherry. I'm a lymphatic therapist, a skin health therapist, as well as a functional medicine health coach. I want to talk today about my personal experience with an autoimmune disorder. I have discoid lupus. I was diagnosed 6 years ago, and as a matter of fact, they have even changed the language, and they now refer to it as cutaneous lupus. This is the lupus that attacks the skin, the largest organ of the body. And so, just a quick little recap. Mine did start here. It looked like a small little zit, actually, and then it spread across my face, my jawline up to my cheek. It jumped over, it got me right here, kind of tagged me right there. Then it also went down my neck and onto my shoulder. As you can see, here I am 6 years later, and most of it has actually cleared up. My hope is just to be an inspiration. This could be an educational and informational type of video that I am doing for other women who are suffering, and even men who are suffering with onset discoid lupus / cutaneous lupus. Hot tea. I wanted to start with, once I was diagnosed, what was my next step? My next step was to tackle the food. So I went to a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine and I asked her to do a gut reset on me. So I'm very holistic, and my belief is that foods can heal. They can help symptoms, and they do provide healing for the body. And this is not just important for those of us that have lupus, but it's really any autoimmune disorder. Even if you have lipedema, if you have lymphedema, the foods that we eat can either help our body or they can hurt our body. And the way that you know what foods are for you specifically is a food sensitivity and intolerance test. It's an IgG test. Okay, so what I mean by gut reset is I went to a lady, again, traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and she did the gut reset that comprised of blood work and a stool sample. Don't even get me started on the stool sample. I still can't handle it. Anyway, so with the blood work, when she sent that in, the results came back with foods that I was sensitive to or had an intolerance to, primarily sensitive to, right? So you have foods that cause inflammation. The inflammation can be acute or the inflammation can be chronic. Okay, so acute means you need an EpiPen. You ate something, a peanut, that's kind of the most common one. You ate a peanut, you ate shellfish, and someone or yourself has to administer the EpiPen, right? So that is an acute inflammation. It happens like that. You also have chronic inflammation that can come from your foods. So what is really kind of dangerous with this is that it happens over time. And so you don't even know that this is a food that you're sensitive to. But what it is doing is it is causing chronic inflammation in your body. The significance of this for myself and for others with autoimmune disorders and just out there in life is you don't know specifically for yourself until you've had the blood work. So you don't know what is causing inflammation. And then whenever I was diagnosed with the cutaneous discoid lupus, I needed my immune system to fight it. But if I'm eating foods that are causing inflammation, I have a divided focus for my immune system. It's having to fight the inflammation from foods while it's trying to fight the inflammation from the lupus. Does that make sense? And so for me to really get a handle on those foods and to eliminate those from my food source, from my diet, was huge in my healing. Sorry, I'm really thirsty today. And I'm enjoying my hot tea. So what I got out of my food sensitivity, the blood work test, there were a host of foods that were causing inflammation. So kind of when you get it back, you have green, yellow, and red, right? So if the foods are hitting the red, there's a sensitivity. If they're hitting the yellow, it's mild, maybe moderate. And then you have the green that could be low, or a darker green that means you're fine. There's really not a sensitivity. So when I did my testing and I got my list back of the foods that I needed to eliminate, I literally cried. And I do mean I literally cried. For me, mine was all dairy, sheep, goat, and cow, soy, nuts and seeds, avocado. And it seems like there was one more, and now I can't remember. But that kind of seems like enough, doesn't it? I mean, does that make you cry? I mean, literally, I cried. Like, literally, I cried. And I asked him, and I asked the doctor, I said, well, what am I supposed to eat? She was like, sure, there are over 200 foods out there. Go find them. Okay, so then with the stool sample, what that part of the gut reset did is that she's actually checking the stool. They're actually seeing what the gut is producing. So for me, I was high in yeast and I was high in candida, which also speaks a lot to the food sensitivity, right? And what it's causing in my body. Okay. So what she did next, and again, this is my own personal experience, I'm just sharing this with you. So what she did next was she gave me 4 months. And in those 4 months, she gave me different supplements that would help reset my gut. It would help with the leaky gut, okay? And then meanwhile, I'm not partaking in these foods. I'm finding other foods from the over 200 foods out there, right? Thank you. During that 4 months, it was going to allow my system to rest and reset. And she did it over a 4-month period. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I'm literally not the best patient. I wish I were, but I'm just not. But I did it. I did those 4 months. And just like I cried, and I did in the beginning, I was crying at the end of the 4 months, but it was different. It was because I felt so much better. And she was just like, Sherry, now you do know you don't have to eat these foods again, right? Like if you feel good, you don't have to eat these foods again. And let me just caveat here. With the food sensitivity, it means that, it's not acute, it's chronic. But while I had to stop eating so many foods, I could start putting some back into my diet and just seeing how my body is doing, right? So let's say you have, I don't know, you have 10 foods that you just can't eat, you're sensitive to them, okay? Well, let's say that you take, I don't know, 8 away, but there's 2 that you're just like, I really want these. So you put those back into your diet. Well, because you eliminated 8, your body has a better chance of accepting that food, right? So, eggs. That was my other one. I knew I was forgetting one. It was eggs. I died. Anyway, so for me, I actually did put eggs back into my diet. I can't have them every day. I can have them a couple of times a week, but I can have them. My other thing with her was, I told her, I was like, I don't want to have to really read food labels, and I don't want to freak out when I go to someone's house. Like let's say I come to your house and you're serving lasagna. I don't want to be like, oh my God, I can't do that. But it's as I know, as she explained, that when you are home, if you will eat healthy for your body and stick to a plan, then when you do go out to eat or you do go to a friend's house, you don't really have to panic, right? Because you've been eating well this whole time before. And once you go back home, you'll pick up your eating again. And so it's not really a disruption, right? As it would be. Now, again, I am telling my story. Your story may be different. I'm only sharing mine. Sorry. Okay. So the first year of doing this, what did I experience? Okay, well, after the 4 months of food prison, it really did feel like food prison. I did have to adjust. The first year, I saw a difference in my energy. I definitely saw a difference in my skin. I mean, nothing can tear this woman's face up like yogurt. Okay, when I eat yogurt, my cheeks are inflamed, and it just looks like patches of acne. Oh my gosh, it was just too much. Now the other thing, really quickly, I can't do seeds or nuts. Okay, remember that? Well, I did put pumpkin seeds back into my diet because I liked them on my salad, right? But pumpkin seeds were causing skin issues on my neck. My neck would look rough and really red. It looked a little leathery, if you will. And that was my body reacting to pumpkin seeds. I'm sharing this with you because I hope that maybe you would choose to go a route like this. But if you do, and no matter what route you choose, look for signs in your body. We have a smart body. It talks to us. It is a living organism. Our skin is a living organism. We have to learn to listen to it. Okay, here I am on my soapbox again. That's the lymphatic therapist in me, by the way, and a skin health therapist, by the way. So the first year I saw my skin really respond. I saw my energy level go up. I was sleeping better. My focus was getting better. I couldn't even believe it. Like, seriously, months later, and I would say it wasn't like right after, like, oh my gosh, these foods are on my system, I'm doing great. Ooh, no, it was not that. But definitely about 9 months later, I could tell a difference. Okay, let me just segue super quick. So this woman, when I sat down with her, I had to bring like all the supplements I was taking, any medication, whatever. I had to bring it all to her, right? Okay, so I take it all in, and she's writing down everything that I'm taking. And then she asks me, why are you taking this? Okay, so I tell her, which is really good because you need to know and understand why you're taking what you're taking, even if it's a supplement. Okay. Well, there were two things that I was also using. I was using an over-the-counter sleep aid, and I was taking Zyrtec because my allergies were so bad. Zyrtec every day, probably for the past 10 years at that point, and then a sleep aid definitely the past 6 years. My sleep was so light that I took a sleep aid. I wore earplugs. I had a fan in the room, and I had a sound machine. All of that so that I could get a good night's sleep. Okay. So after she goes through these supplements, she takes that sleep aid and my Zyrtec and she slides those over and she goes, when we're done, you won't need these. And I thought, okay, whatever. Fast forward. Approximately, well, let me give you the dates. I started the 4 months in October. It ended in January. I wanted to do an extra month, so I did one more month, okay, of the supplements and the elimination. So I actually did 5 months. Isn't that funny? After I cried because I was going to do it for 4 months, and I did an extra month. Okay, great. So I finished that up in February. By October, I was feeling so much better. And I was at my best friend's house where I always get the best sleep ever. This woman, listen, it's one of those interior bedrooms. It was supposed to be, I think, a media room. She changed it into a bedroom. Hello, no windows. She cranks that air down. And then like you have like an electric mat, a heating mat that you sleep on. Oh my gosh, it's amazing with like, not a weighted comforter, but it's just kind of heavy blankets and you're just like bundled up. Oh my gosh, just lovely. Anyway. So I was literally at her house, which her house is just a house of peace anyway. When you're in her home, the feeling is so peaceful. So while I was there, I was like, you know what? I am sleeping better. So I'm going to try not using my sleep aid. That was October of 22. I have not used it since. I have not used it since. Clearing up those foods, clearing up that inflammation has helped that much in my sleep. And I did it because I was already realizing I didn't need the earplugs. I wasn't really using a fan. Now I am a sound machine girl, just the way it is. So basically I was doing sound machine and the over-the-counter sleep aid. So I was like, well, let's just see. And I'm telling you, I haven't used it since. Okay. Now, also where I live, we have cedar fever. It is brutal. It is beyond brutal. It sets in December and it does not let go of you until, I don't know, we can get some decent rain down here. So at March, something like that, April. Okay, so that was October, right? With the sleep aid that I stopped taking. So in November, I was like, oh my gosh, she was right about the sleep aid. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm going to stop with this Zyrtec right here in the big middle of cedar fever. And let's just see. Do you know I've not taken Zyrtec since? I've not had to have any allergy medication since then. My point is, because the foods were causing inflammation in my body just couldn't, my immune system just couldn't fight. But once I eliminated such a huge source, my immune system was able to fight better. So it's also, with the autoimmune, it's having to fight, my immune system is trying to strengthen and fight this. And then, the allergies, I'm just saying it cleared things up. Now, let me also say I had onset discoid lupus or cutaneous lupus. It was caused by an event. The understanding was, which mine was grieving, my understanding was once that stops, once I get to a certain place, it will start recessing, right? And it did, and it has in 6 years. It's taken 6 years, but it has. So today, no sleep aid, no allergy meds. Like I said, I did put eggs back into a regular diet a couple of times a week. If I go to someone's house and I eat something that's on that food list, I don't panic. I know I'm going to be fine. And so today it was for me the right first step on my journey of having an autoimmune disorder. So I want to put this out there again, just information and educational. These are things that I talk with women who come to my practice. They come to me, I'm a lymphatic therapist, so they come to me for lymphatic drainage. They're coming to me because they have inflammation. Either it is very visible or they can absolutely feel it. And this is typically the first step I have them take. I guess technically the first step would be that they came for lymphatic drainage, which is greatly helpful. The lymphatic drainage, I go through and I clear the lymph nodes, and then I do the lymph technique on the skin of the body to help move the lymph to the lymph nodes. I pump the lymph nodes, the body gets rid of it. So that is a huge help in inflammation. It gives them a feeling of being light. It gives them, it's detoxing their body. And so it's cleansing them and they feel better. Maybe not the next day. Sometimes you don't feel as great the next day, but keep at it. Keep at it. Wherever you are, look for a VODDER, VODDER, certified lymphatic therapist, and start going to them. It is not an immediate cure, okay? But it will help relieve your symptoms. It's going to help you rest. It's going to help get the stuff moved out. It's going to help your body fight. So I guess for my clientele, that's their first step, coming to me. And then I always encourage them the second step to have their gut reset and to attack the foods. So that is where I start. That is what I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you found it educational and informational. And thank you so much for joining me. It has absolutely been my pleasure to have you here.